know of anyone who needs to hear this series, please make it available to them, either by telling them about it or handing them a copy. We're grateful that Rob's back with us. We thoroughly, we just didn't enjoy it. We did more than enjoy it. It became a part of us. So that's a great thing, and we're looking forward to the lessons today. And of course, we're going to have refreshments at noon, 12 o'clock, so please avail yourselves to that. And no further ado, Rob,
good morning, everybody. Good morning. What a pleasure to be at Woodstock this morning. And if you have not received your material packet, if you were not here last night, raise your hand, because we'll give it to you at this hour. So please raise your hand if you've not already received the Evangelism Simplified guidebook, and also your set of Back to the Bible. If you need the large print edition, if you'll just indicate to the table you need one, they'll mark it down. So we do need to have a record of that. We need to make sure that you can see it. And if your vision is changing, or maybe you just need a little larger print, don't worry about it. We do have a larger print edition of Back to the Bible. So if you need the material, raise your hand. If you already have the material, we will be referencing it periodically throughout the day. So grateful for your attendance. We had a great start to this seminar last night, and this morning we're going to begin with what I believe is one of the most important principles or sessions in this series. In order for us to become evangelists, you must learn the principles. The principles that lay the foundation of evangelism are essential to putting it into practice. You can't practice what you don't know. And so we're going to build on the three principles last night that we learned. As a successful evangelist, you need to have embedded in your mind, and they're counter-cultural and they're counter-preacher. And the most difficult part of this for preachers is that we have a tendency to answer questions. We want to answer questions. And that is embedded in us as we go through school, that we should be able to answer any question. In fact, we would claim it's biblical. 1 Peter 3:15, but sanctify the Lord thy God always in your heart. Be ready to give an answer to every man. That's the reason of the hope that is within you. Be ready. So we would believe that we need to answer every question a sinner asks. What we learned last night is that's the last thing you should do. And if you want to have a Bible study, don't answer questions, because they're not going to have a Bible study if you're answering all their questions. And so if someone asks you a question, say, that is a great question. And try to extend the conversation. I talked about last night how I'm not rude. I don't ignore their question. I extend the question. Because what I want is the study. And let the Bible answer the question, so I show, don't tell. And I never pick, I plant. So I don't assume someone's not interested. I assume when I meet a sinner, they're all interested. In fact, I baptize every sinner in my mind when I meet them. And so they might be thinking, why is he looking at me like this? Because I'm baptizing you. I'm just trying to figure out how to get you there. So every sinner I meet, I'm baptizing them as soon as I meet them. So let's go ahead and begin this morning. Let's talk about how to get into a Bible study. How do you get someone to sit around the kitchen table or around any table and open their Bibles and are willing to let the Word of God instruct them and teach them? I want to bring to your attention this morning what we call the Evangelism Model. This is the heart and soul of what we do in our school. So if you have a camera and you want to take a picture of it, go right ahead. I'm going to be covering this thoroughly with your elders and preachers this afternoon. I want you to look at the 6 keys to successful evangelism. Number 1, you must have contacts. Brethren, if you do not have contacts, you have nothing as a church. People are the foundation of evangelism. If you remove people from evangelism, you have a process that has no end. You're just fulfilling a process for process sake, and that's certainly not what we want to do. So developing a contact base for a local church is the heart and soul of the work of evangelism. Now, in order for this part of the strategy to be successful, it must involve the church members. Let me be clear. The worst contact creator in your local church is Matt. And I say that for this reason. Matt will agree with me. Matt knows Christians. He works with Christians. He sees Christians. He's around Christians all the time. Brethren, we're not needing to contact Christians. See, preachers struggle with this first step because we're not around sinners. So we're around you. And I love to be around you, but I don't need to teach you the gospel in order for you to be saved, because you're already saved. So if you're going to be successful, and number one, you cannot ride the back of your preacher. In fact, the most successful contact creators in a local church are you, or the members who work with sinners, who see them every single day. And in order for Matt to do his job, which I know he's just itching to do, I don't know a preacher that doesn't want to do a study with a sinner. He needs you to do your job, so you must be a bringer. So the first two steps can be summarized with the word bringer. You've got to bring sinners, which means we have to activate the power of the pews. We have to teach the pews how to bring people. And so the first step is contact. So raise your hand this morning if you know 10 people that are lost. If you know 10 people, raise your hand. So everybody should be involved in step one. Everybody. So we know 10 people in our community that are lost, and we can work on them. So we're going to develop step one. Now, step two is called prospecting. Prospecting is what you do to a sinner once you bring them. Once you identify the target, you now have to develop the target so that you can successfully bring that target to a Bible study, that prospect. It's called prospecting. Now, an old gold miner who prospects the pay dirt is going to take that pay dirt and put it through a sleuth, some way to separate that which produces and that which doesn't, knowing that most of the pay dirt he collects doesn't produce, does it? It ends up going as the tailings. So most of the contacts you come into contact with are not going to produce, are they? In fact, that's biblical. Jesus said, many are called. Jesus said, narrow is the way that leads to life, and few there be that. So this is completely biblical. But so a prospector knows this. If he's going to make a living prospecting gold, he can't get a shovel load a day. He's got to get bucket loads a day. I mean, we're talking bucket loads. So if you only bring Matt a couple contacts, you can pretty much expect you'll reap what you sow. You're not going to get much out of that. But if you are, as a church, can bring hundreds and hundreds of contacts from those hundreds and hundreds of contacts, from those buckets and buckets of pay dirt, guess what you're going to find? Gold. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to prospect all the contacts until we find those few. Brethren, few is more than none. And none is what most churches are getting today. Few of a million has got to be more than 2 baptisms a year in the Church of Christ. It's got to be more than, we baptized 5 people, 4 of them were our young people. It's got to be more than that. So this lesson is going to focus on the first 2 steps of a successful evangelism model, contacts and prospects. Her name's Brandy Fleming. Brandy Fleming came down the aisle, had a piece of paper in her hand, and I noticed that Brandy always has a big smile on her face. And Brandy says, hey, Rob, I've got somebody for you. Now, Brandy's one of the most evangelistic ladies I've ever met. She's never conducted a Bible study. So this is lesson number 1. You do not have to conduct a Bible study to be involved in evangelism. In fact, I don't mean to be disrespectful. There are some of you this morning who don't need to be conducting Bible studies. It is just not, that's not where you shine. You shine in other areas I don't shine, and we need your talent. But to be honest, there are some individuals who are just, that's just the God-given talent. They are teachers. They're natural in ability. And we need those men and women to step forward, because your talent is going to be crucial. But this may not be your area. You may not be a Brandy Fleming who seems to be able to meet people all the time and bring them. She had the piece of paper in her hand, said Jimmy and Sharon Fisher. And I said, Brandy, tell me about Sharon Fisher. She said, Rob, she's a coworker of mine. and she's become disgruntled at her job, and she's become disgruntled at her church. She'd been recently sick, and no one's noticed, and she is really feeling low, and she needs encouragement. I said, we can do it. So we're immediately going to put Brandy on our contact list. Now go to page 104. Page 104 in your Evangelism Simplified book. You're going to see the contact list. Brethren, you will never hit a target you don't aim for. If you do not have a target package, you will not hit your target. Most churches have no target package. The best they can give me is a bulletin that has a list of sick that has been on the bulletin for months and years. And there's a paragraph somewhere in your bulletin, if you're the typical Church of Christ, and you got 20 names on it, maybe 25. And these are people we're praying for. That is not the contact list. The contact list is a separate piece of paper that is printed and updated every week. And you're going to make sure it's available to every member. And it's going to contain the people that we're looking for. These are the people we're prospecting. These are the people that we're trying to get to. These are our contacts. And so if you send a soldier out in the field to fight a battle, but do not give him a target package, he will fail. Because he has no idea where he's going. He has no idea what he's doing. And so a platoon, a unit to go out into the field, you're going to instruct them and say, this is your objective. This is your target package. You're going to tell a pilot, this is your package. Deliver the object right here. Churches of Christ that do not have a target will fail every time. Brethren, you can't shoot from the hip. It doesn't work. We must have a target package. That's why in the churches of Christ, we have a difficult time evangelizing. We don't know who to evangelize. You will now. Because we will list their name, we will list their address, we will list their description, and we're going to list why and who they're related to in this church. So we're going to put the name Sharon Fisher on the list. We're going to put description, she needs encouragement, recovering from surgery, under description. Then under address, we're going to give her address. In those two little boxes, everybody see them? One says multiple, one says single. You're going to check the multiple box. And for 4 weeks, every member of the Church of Christ is going to try to prospect Sharon Fisher. Now, Sharon Fisher might be able to resist Brandy Fleming. And she might be moved by Brandy Fleming, but she can resist giving in to Brandy Fleming. Let me tell you what Sharon Fisher will not resist. She will not resist the entire Church of Christ. When we bring the love and the kindness of the entire church on Sharon Fisher, she will be moved. That's what we're going to do. We're going to get the church working on Sharon. One of the simplest ways to do this is to overwhelm her with cards. We're not going to send one card with 30 signatures. We're going to send 30 cards every week. We're going to send 5 cards on Monday, 5 cards on Tuesday, 6 cards on Wednesday, 7 cards on Thursday, and we're going to overwhelm her with love. She's going to go out to her mailbox and she's going to have compassion cards. These cards are available and they are tailor-made for Churches of Christ. Ladies, you'll never have to throw another card away because it's unscriptural. And you'll never have to worry about finding the right card because we're tailor-making these cards for this ministry. And these cards are designed to reach into the homes of sinners and to give them moving messages from the Scripture and to allow you to pen a little note and say, I'm praying for you, I'm thinking about you, I've gone through what you've gone through, you can do it. You know, what do you need? We're here for you. Whatever message it is you want to give, you're going to give that message. She's going to have a boatload of them. She's going to put some on her desk at work, some on her mantle, some on her kitchen table. They're going to be everywhere. Every day she goes out to the mailbox, she is overwhelmed with cards. She's never been loved like this in her life. Hey, Brandy, what's going on, Sharon? I got to tell you something. You know, you said your church was going to pray for me, and she said, every day I go out to my mailbox, I got 5, 6, 7 cards. I'm overwhelmed with love. I've never seen anything like it. And she said, Brandy, they brought me out of a low place. I thought no one cared. She said, you know, my church, the mega church I'm a member of, not a card, no. She said, but your church? She said, man, every day I go out there, you know, and they sign it. It says, Willett Church of Christ. It's wonderful. I don't know what to say. Can you thank them for me? She said, well, why don't you thank them? Well, what do you mean? Well, just come Sunday. Just come Sunday. And she said, that would be the greatest gift you could give that church. She said, I'm going to come. So sure enough, Sunday morning, Nicole and I we're always scanning the audience, and we notice this couple walks in. I said, well, honey, I said, we got a visitor. We walked up and said, ma'am, my name's Rob, my wife Nicole. He said, well, I'm Jimmy Fisher. This is my wife Sharon Fisher. Sharon Fisher, there it is, right there. I said, you guys are our, we're sending cards to you guys, is that right? They said, yes, you are. She said, are you the preacher here? I said, yes, ma'am. My name's Rob Whitacre again. She said, sir, can you do something for me this morning? Can you thank the church for all the cards I've been getting? I said, absolutely. I said, that's not a problem. So I got up in the pulpit before we even dismissed the Bible class. I said, church, I got an announcement to make. Everybody looked up here, and I said, we got some visitors this morning, Sharon and Jimmy Fisher. They wanted you to know how much those cards mean to them, and make sure you greet them. People were coming up and saying hello to Jimmy and Sharon. I mean, they were just getting all the attention that they could handle. I noticed during worship, Jimmy and Sharon paid very close attention to the lesson. They're taking notes. Their Bibles are open. You know, you can tell they're really soaking it in. After services, I walked up. I just so happened to have this custom of Jimmy and Sharon. I said, my wife and I always invite people out to eat that visit. I said, it's on us. I said, could we take you to any restaurant, just get to know you? Well, that'd be awful nice. Yeah, we don't have any plans. We'd love to go with you. I said, all right. I said, well, let's go down here to Lafayette and we'll grab a bite to eat. So we took them out to eat and we sat around. You know, I tell you what, brethren, when you eat with people, they just open up. You know, we're talking about, you know, their family and their area and where they came from. It was a great meeting. Now, I didn't expect them to come back Sunday night, and they didn't. But that gave me an opportunity to get church working. So I got into the pulpit and I said, hey, church, this morning, how many of us saw Jimmy and Sharon Fisher? Well, about half the church raises their hand. I said, all right. I said, here's what I need you to do. I said, we're going to prospect Jimmy and Sharon. I need everybody to go to the card room and grab your compassion card. I want you to grab the card that says, thank you for visiting. I want everybody to send those cards that invite them to come back. Send them the praying for you cards. Send them the encouragement cards. Go grab those cards, and I don't care what group you're in, 1 through 6. Everybody's going to do this. Make sure you send it to the office. We'll stamp it. We'll send them out. We got a spreadsheet. We keep track of this stuff. So come Monday, she's going to get 7 or 8 cards. Come Tuesday, she's going to get 7 or 8 more cards. You think it's going to make a difference in her life? You think she'll know the Church of Christ cares? Brethren, I'm not worried about the form letter from the secretary. And I'm not against, I love secretaries, but we're not here to send the form letter. Write a personal card. Well, I don't know if I can do that. We have 8-year-olds that write cards. Men, you can write a card too. Send your cards. Overwhelm them with cards. Well, my wife does it for me. No, she doesn't do it. Does she take the Lord's Supper for you? No. You're going to go send a card. Everybody does it. And do you know what happens when the Lord's church does her job? Matt gets to do his. Matt can't do this by himself. He doesn't know your coworker. He doesn't know your neighbor. He doesn't know your friend. He doesn't know your ball team member. You know them. We need you to engage. Brethren, the Church of Christ cannot fulfill her mission when the members of the Church of Christ aren't doing it. We must get involved. Evangelism is not a preacher work. It's not an elder work. It is a congregational work. If the members are not going to participate, this will fail. I'm going to be clear. We need your help. We need you to engage, and we're going to show you how to do this. I'm just touching the first hymn of this strategy. Let me share with you what will happen, the potential if you'll do this. You get this right here. I'm sitting in my chair. We're just relaxing that evening as a family, and my phone beeps. You know, it's a text. Hey, Rob, it's Brandy. Hey, Nicole, Brandy's texting us. I'll read it, everybody. Listen up. I received a message from Sharon's husband, Jimmy. He said he and Sharon had received at least 4 cards a day, thanking them for visiting or wishing Sharon well. He says just the kind of church they've been looking for, one that could take care of Sharon if anything ever happened to him. Now, he said he's still praying and trying to let God lead him to where he needs to be. Now, Rob, I offered to answer any questions, though, that he might have, even a Bible study. I welcomed him to come back at any time. Now, Rob, I was not expecting him to text me back so quickly with this question. Do you have to be a member of the Church of Christ to take communion? Now, Rob, I know the answer to that question. But, Rob, if he's asking that question, he knows to know a whole lot more. Any suggestions? Don't answer the question. If you want a Bible study, don't answer the question. I replied to Brandy. I said, don't answer that. Did you answer that? No. I said, don't do it. Because you need a Bible study. He needs a Bible study. I said, so your job, Brandy, is simple. Get them to come back one more time. I said, if you can get them into that door one more time, I said, we've got it. I said, I've already got the baptism planned. And so here we go. So I got Jimmy and Sharon coming back the next Sunday morning. They walk into the service. They sit down. Everybody's kind. They're looking for them. They're greeting them. I went back up to Jimmy and Sharon. I said, hey, guys. I said, did y'all enjoy the service this morning? Yeah, we did. I said, we just so happen to have this custom. I said, Nicole and I like to have people over to our house for dinner. And I said, my wife, best cook in Macon County. My daughter, best dessert maker you'll ever find. I said, I'll tell you what, Jimmy. I said, if you guys will come over to the house, we get to know you and, just visit a little bit. And she said, well, we'd like to do that. I said, well, great. I said, when would work for y'all? She said, well, what about Monday night, 6 o'clock? I said, I can't wait. So Monday night, 6 o'clock, they come over to the house, and we have one mission. Brethren, I always have one mission. I'm not there to talk about the football game. I am there to get a Bible study. Now, if I have to talk about the football game to get a Bible study, I'll do it. But I never lose sight of my mission. Don't get distracted. Don't allow yourself to chase rabbits. Don't allow yourself to get off target. When you're with the sinner, you have one mission. Brethren, you always have one mission. The Lord had one mission. Jesus came to seek and save the lost. And if the mission that you have is not the mission that Christ has, you're not like Christ. I believe one of the reasons we struggle in evangelism is because we don't know what our mission is. The Church of Christ has lost her mission. She's got 20 missions going on. No, you have one. If your mission is not to reach the lost, then you need to refocus. It's all about the lost. It's all about sinners. It's not about us. It's about sinners. And so we must stay focused on that message. And Jimmy and Sharon, I tell you what, they're special people. They were sitting in my living room, and, hey, Jimmy, what do you do for a living? He said, man, I'm a security guard. I said, well, tell me about being a security guard. He said, well, Rob, let me tell you what happened one night. He's at a Bonnell aluminum factory, and he's telling me about how, people come in and go out and various things he has to do. Not a big talker. It's all right. Sharon, what do you do for a living? I'm a kindergarten teacher. For the next 45 minutes, I heard everything about being a kindergarten teacher. She told me about every kid in her class. Well, one kid, the best meal he gets is at school. Another boy lives in a truck with his dad. I hear she's passionate about her kid. Rob, I can't teach anymore. I said, why is that? They got me doing portfolios. You know what a portfolio is, teachers? They're kindergartners, Rob. All I want to teach them is, I don't have time to teach them. And she talked about the state testing, and I got an earful. And that's all right. I have one mission. It's just a matter of time. It always happens. When you're with people, they're going to bring it up if they know you live your faith. Hey, Rob, can I ask you a little bit about your church? I'd love for you to ask. She said, Rob, I've been sick. And I said, yes. I said, I know that, Sharon. She said, we go to this big community church out there by Westmoreland. I said, I know the one. She said, Rob, we're active. She said, Rob, every summer, Jimmy and I take a week of our vacation, and we do mission work with them. We go to their children's home in Mexico, and Rob, we work with those children. I said, oh, bless you guys. Jesus loves children, and I'm so glad you love children too. Oh, we do, Rob. And Rob, she said, we've been sick. I had this surgery, and I was really scared. And Rob, I just thought my church would pour out their love. She said, Rob, I didn't get one phone call, one card, one visit. The entire time. I've never been more depressed in my life. And when I needed them, they weren't there for me. She said, Rob, I don't even know where my preacher lives. And this is our first time. Excuse me? Your first time? I'm confused. She said, Rob, we have never been in anybody's home before. No one's ever invited us. She says, and this has been good. I needed this. I said, Sharon, I'm glad you're with us. I said, this has been good for us. I said, it's great just to talk and, have friends. And she said, well, we needed this. I said, hey, I tell you what, guys. I said, would you guys like to come back next week and do this again? And I said, Nicole, she'll put whatever. She's a good cook. I tell you, y'all just come back with this video. And Jimmy said, will Hannah cook another dessert? I said, oh, yes, many desserts here, Jimmy. And he said, we'll come back. We'd enjoy that. Now, so what I did is I surveyed the field. Anybody ever played ball and survey the field and you try to figure out where you're going? Here's what I determined. They're not ready for the study, but we're close. I said, I need more time. So I get them back to my home again. I'll have the study. The study will happen the next time they're in my home, but I am this close. So they came back the next week, and they walk into our home. We sit down, and I got to generate this conversation in the beginning. I can't wait this to the end. I need time. So I'm going to help Jimmy a little bit. Hey, Jimmy, I said, our nation's really struggling. Yeah, Rob, it's bad. I said, it is, Jimmy. I said, Jimmy, what do you think the problem is with our country right now? And he said, hey, Rob, it's the morals. I agree. He said, it's terrible, Rob. He said, man, it's bad. Rob, do you know it's all in the book of Revelation? It is. He said, oh, yes. I said, well, tell me about this, Jimmy. He said, Rob, it's 144,000. It's the Battle of Megiddo. It's Armageddon. It's the rapture. Rob, it's all about to happen. It's all prophesied. It's the earthquakes, the volcanoes. It's happening all now. Rob, we're living it right now. I mean, we did all that in 60 seconds. I didn't bite on one of them. It violates my principles. I'm not biting on that, and I'll teach you this in a minute. You bite on that, you're done. And so I said, Jimmy, you know what? The book of Revelation says a lot of good things, doesn't it? He said, yes, it does. And I said, Jimmy, I think I have something that would help our nation. I wish I could teach our nation this. He said, well, what is it? I just so happen to have these little booklets right here. Jimmy, let's sit right over here around the table. Honey, grab the Bibles. I said, I want y'all to look at this Bible passage. Y'all know where the book of John is? Yes. I said, turn to chapter 8, verse 32. I always do the same thing. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth will make you free. I said, Jimmy, what makes you free? He said, the truth. I said, write that in the blank for me, truth. Write down truth right there. And he wrote truth down. I said, let's go to the next one, John 17:17. And we started our Bible study, and we're going through and they're loving it. And Sharon, she gets a little upset towards the end. I noticed she's a little agitated. I said, Sharon, are you okay? And she says, I don't understand how I could go to church all my life. And she said, no one ever told me I wasn't under the 10 Commandments. I didn't know I wasn't under the Old Testament. Why didn't anybody tell me about this? I said, I don't know, Sharon. I said, Sharon, do you think you guys would like to know a little bit more? Yes. I said, well, I just so happen to have this little blue booklet here. I said, would you guys like to come back next week? And Jimmy said, I think we'd come back next week. So they came back the next week. And the next week we did the Church of Christ. And we covered the church, and they loved it. And they came back the third week. You know what the problem is with Jimmy and Sharon? It's the problem almost every sinner has. They don't know they're lost. It is the number one reason why people are not in this building right now. If everyone knew that they were lost, they'd be here. They don't know they're lost. They've been deceived into thinking they're saved. Most people think they're saved. They think they're going to heaven. They think that everything's all right. Not until they read this book do they begin to realize they're not all right. And the only way for them to be all right is to do what this book says. And we go through that third study. Sharon gets it first. She said, Rob, I'm seeing some things I've never seen before, and it's scary. She said, Rob, I think I might be. Jimmy says, you just wait 1 minute, preacher. Are you trying to tell Sharon and I we're going to hell? And I said, no, Jimmy, I didn't say that. In fact, that's not my job. I said, Jimmy, may I ask you a question? He said, well, what is it? I said, why did you just ask me that? I mean, why did you say that? And he said, I'm not sure. I said, Jimmy, I tell you what, let's do. Let's keep doing this study. And if you've done what the Bible says, you're going to heaven. But Jimmy and Sharon, if you've not done what the Bible says, we can fix that tonight. And he said, all right. So we studied about 5 more minutes. He already knew. And he said, Rob, would you let Sharon and I talk just for a minute? I said, sure. Nicole and I stepped out of the room just for a minute. They said, Rob, we need to talk to you. We need to be baptized. I said, we can do that right now. We took them over to the baptistry, and we baptized Jimmy and Sharon Fisher into Christ. It was a wonderful evening. We rejoiced as the Ethiopian eunuch did in Acts 8:39. And that Bible study, what happened in that Bible study is something that I will never forget. And I want to teach every congregation of the Lord. See, people are not just zeros and ones. People are not just X's and O's. People are more than that. And if you're going to be successful reaching the lost, here's the lesson you got to get. You have got to understand that people must be prospected. You cannot take a contact to a Bible study. It's a leap too far. You're never going to make it. If you don't spend time getting to know them, if you don't spend time helping to develop the relationship with them, you will never get them to the study. People are not the fast food line. You got to spend time with them. 6 months later, Sharon Fisher's in Jamaica. She's doing a Bible study. That's Betty McCarter, just recently restored. I think we're in the Old Harbor there, Jamaica. That's Richard Pratt. In fact, we're in Sandy Bay right there. That's Richard Pratt, the Methodist from last night. He's doing a Bible study for the Lord's church. That's Jimmy Fisher. He's doing a Bible study for the kingdom. Write this down. If you don't know this already, write it down. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. It doesn't matter that you know the Greek. It doesn't matter that you're a Hebrew scholar. It doesn't matter that you direct a school of preaching. It doesn't matter that your last name is whatever. Brethren, they don't care. They don't know. All the things that you think are important, all the things that you think make you qualified, they don't care. You know who is qualified to teach a sinner? The person that takes him to lunch. Can you do that? Can you eat with somebody? Who's qualified to reach a sinner? The person that takes time to listen to them. That's who's qualified. That's all that matters to them. They don't care that you're an elder. They don't care that you're the song leader. None of that matters to the sinner. All they care about is, do you care about me? And if you'll care about them, they will open their heart to you. The way we treat visitors should never be the reason they obey the gospel. I don't want anybody obeying the gospel because they like my wife's lasagna. That is not the motivating factor, but I'll be clear this morning. The way we treat visitors may be the reason they never obey the gospel because we pay no attention to them. How many churches of Christ have this happen every Sunday? We have visitors walk into our assembly and they walk out and we don't have a name or an address or a phone number. I didn't say you didn't say hello. I'm saying we have no name, address, or phone number. How often does that happen in the Church of Christ? Brother, it's embarrassing. It happens continuously. I can tell you stories where my family finishes a seminar, like we're going to finish tomorrow morning, and we head home. We're not going to make it. We stop by on Sunday night at a church. We walk into that church, and we walk out with not even a hello. I was in a recent congregation where one of our schools of preaching were. And I walked into that congregation of hundreds of people, and I walked out, and I didn't even have a hello. And I told my family, don't go up to Brother so-and-so because he knows us. I don't want him to see us. I said, I want to see what this church is going to do. So I walked in. We sat on those pews. We sat on the pews the entire time, about mid-row down, and my family walks out. I didn't get so much as a hello. I cannot tell you how badly I wanted to go to the elders and say, I need to meet with y'all right now. Because if this happened to us, I want to know how many visitors you're missing every single service. It's inexcusable. It should never happen. Jesus said in Matthew 10 and 16, be ye therefore as wise as serpents and subtle as doves. Let me explain that passage. That is what we call the limited commission. He's sending out the 70. And when Jesus sent them on a mission, he had a target package. He said, this is exactly who you're going to, and this is how you do it. Brethren, we must train our churches how to reach sinners. And we're not doing that. We got to tell them, here's what you do when a sinner comes. Here's how you approach them. So that's what be as wise as serpents means. Be as harmless as doves. It's the Hippocratic oath for Christians. Do no harm. Leave a good impression. Do never give someone a reason to think poorly upon the church. Don't do it. Now, here's your application. Go to Acts 2:47. I'm going to break this down and make this very simple. I'm going to give you 4 words before I leave this lesson this morning. But go to Acts 2:47. I'm going to show you in practice what I just taught. Acts 2:47. And you know this verse. And Matt, you probably quote it several times a month because every good preacher does. This is the foundation of the Church of Christ. And praising God, having favor with all the people. And the Lord added to the church daily such as should be saved. So any preacher worth his salt would say it like this. Any church you can join is not the Church of Christ because the church is one that God adds you to. And everybody says amen. Because we know that's the bedrock principle of the Lord's church. That you don't join churches. God adds you to the church when you're saved, when you obey the gospel. So I preached it like that for 20 years. And I still preach it like that. But I was missing something. See, I was missing what I believe is the main emphasis of this verse. And they had favor with the people. Did you know the first century church was a church that people liked? Now, I want you to think about the setting of the first century. You had the Pharisees. Most people didn't like the Pharisees. They were pompous. The Sadducees were the same way. They were in their, if you weren't in their clique, they had no good thing to say about you. I mean, think about religion, how fragmented it was. You had the Pharisees over here. You had the Sadducees over here. You had the Essenes and Zealots over here. You had the Herodians over here. Basically, they took Old Testament Judaism and they denominated it. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Think about all the denominations of Judaism. And you had to be a member of a particular denomination. And they said, well, we want you to be a Pharisee. Come over here, Jesus, and be a Pharisee. Jesus said, I don't want to be one. Well, Jesus, we want you to be a Sadducee. You come over and join our denomination. I don't want to be one. And so they both hated him. And what they tried to do with Jesus when he said, I just want to be a Jew. Have you ever thought about that before? I just want to be a Christian. No, I don't want to be a member of any of your group. I just want to be a child of God. Isn't that a great message? Think about the liberating message you have this morning. I just want to be a Christian, period. I don't want to be a part of any other group. We love everybody. That was the message of the Church of Christ in the first century. We love you. And people loved that message. So much so the church grew. 3,000 members right off the bat. 5,000 members a few chapters later. You want to know why it grew so quickly? Because it had the favor of the people. The people realized they're genuine. The people realized they legitimately care about my well-being. The people realized that they were a graceful church. They were a giving church. They were a kind church. Now, I want you to look at why. And the multitude of them that believed were of one heart and one soul. Neither said any of them aught of the things which he possessed were his own, for they had all things in common. Neither was there any among them that lacked, for as many as were possessors of lands and houses sold them. Distribution was made to every man according as he had need. It was a giving church. That word favor is only used twice in Scripture. Here's the second time. Luke 2:52. It's used to describe a person twice in all the Bible. And Jesus is the second one. And Jesus increased in wisdom, intellectually, stature, physically, favor with God, religiously, and man, socially. Did you know this morning that your Lord was a social creature? He was not a hermit. He did not avoid people. Jesus loved to be with sinners. Question. Do you like to be with sinners? When's the last time you spent time with a sinner? When's the last time you had a sinner in your home? When's the last time they sat around your dinner table and they ate with you? And I'm not talking about Christmas and Thanksgiving with your family. I want to know when the last time you said to a sinner at work, would you want to come over and we'll watch the ball game together and we'll have a dinner together? You want to come over and we'll just visit together? My wife will cook a meal for you. When's the last time you spent time with sinners? Because when they saw Jesus coming, they flocked to him. They loved him. Friends, he spent so much time with sinners. Do you know what they called Jesus? He's a wine bibber. He's a sinner. He's a publican. The Pharisees and Sadducees made fun of him for it. And it was really his calling card. What they thought was a negative was one of the greatest positives in his life. Brethren, don't become a Pharisee. Don't become so righteous that you can't spend time with sinners. Yes, I realize that you need to insulate yourselves from their sin. I'm not asking you to drink with them. You shouldn't. It's sinful. I'm not asking you to go out to the bars and dance halls with them. That's not what I'm saying tonight, this morning. Yes, insulate yourselves from all the sin. Do not isolate yourselves from the sinner. Your home is a controlled environment. Do you know that? You can take the sinner out of their environment and put him in your field. This is the first time it's used. It's in 1 Samuel 2:26. And the child Samuel grew on. He was in favor both with the Lord and men. People loved Samuel so much they wanted to do what? Would you be our king? Some say it's too hard, preacher. What you're saying today just doesn't work. Have you seen this area? You see how busy people are? We don't have time for this. I mean, brother, we live in the age of the golden arches. We don't have time to be doing all these, having people in our home stuff. It doesn't work in America. I disagree. It's simple. I know it works. In fact, I know if you'll just slow down a couple days a month and spend time with sinners, I know exactly what's going to happen. Because it happens every time my family does this. Ask my wife how many times we have sinners in our home, we get a Bible study. Ask her how many times we don't get it. I recently asked my family, I said, of all the sinners we've had in our home the last 20 years, how many times did we not get to study? I cannot remember one. Brethren, we always get to study. When you prospect somebody properly, they're going to give you that first study. Now, I may not get the second one, but I'll get that first one. Genesis 2:18, the Lord God said, it is not good that man should be alone, for I will make for him a helpmeet. It's not good to be alone. That's not how God made you. It's not good to be by yourself and say, I don't want to be around anybody. I know there's a temptation. Men, let me be clear. There is a temptation among some of us to take our families and go as far away from people as possible because society scares us to death. I get it. You will not reach sinners like that. You're not going to convert people if you do that. So here's the proof that it works. You know what these are called? Anybody have any idea what all this is called right here? These are called social media apps. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, messaging, iMessaging, texting, social media. So here's what happened. Some billionaires came together and said, hey, you know what? People are social creatures. If we create an artificial social environment, people will flock to that. We can sell ads, and we'll make a lot of money, and because people love to be around people. But we'll just do it artificially, and we love it. I mean, we love our Facebook. We love our Twitter. We love our Instagram. We love to talk with people and visit with people. But I've got news for you. I don't care how sophisticated these things get. They will never replace a warm-blooded human being. Never. You know, there are some things you don't Facebook about. At least you shouldn't. There are some things you don't tweet about. At least you shouldn't be. How many of you have ever been sitting at home and you say, honey, look at what she posted on Facebook. I can't believe she said that. Do you know why she said it? I'll tell you why. That's her outlet. She doesn't have anybody to talk to. She doesn't have anybody she can vent on. Her husband doesn't listen to her. And so she's going to let it be known. I cannot believe he said that. I would never write something like that. I know why. Because people need people and you don't have any. You know what happens when you put a person in your living room and you talk to them and ask simple questions like I did to the elders yesterday? I don't know if they realize it or not, but I do the same thing all the time. I said, what do you do for a living? I just want to get to know you. It's amazing how quickly we open up to each other, isn't it? And we just start talking. 10 minutes, I didn't even know who you were. But you're telling me all about your life. You're telling me about the work ethic you got, things you've done in your life. Why do we do that? Because we're naturally social people, aren't we? We like to talk to people. And if you'll listen to me, if I'll just listen, you'll talk to me for an hour. You'll tell me everything there is to know about you. It's incredible. So let me give you 4 principles, 4 things you can do to get a Bible study. Write these down in your book, your note section, last page of your book. I'm going to take 15 minutes. I'm going to give you 4 of them. Here it is. Number 1, open up your home. Brethren, put sinners in your house. Let the sinner get to know you. Let the sinner get to understand you. Put them in your home, and brethren, they're open up. When Jimmy Fisher and Sharon Fisher were sitting in our home, they just opened up. Brethren, literally within 5 minutes of them walking through my door and sitting in my living room, they were talking about some of the most intimate parts of their life in 5 minutes. Now, is that a cultural change? Yes. Was our culture like that 100 years ago? No. You could literally have someone next door to you that struggled with all sorts of problems. You never know it. People kind of kept to themselves. No, they don't do that today. They're open flowers. They want to talk. They need to tell you about it. Put them in your home, and they'll talk. Have you forgotten that your home is a mission statement? Brethren, your home is an evangelistic tool, but we're not using it. Let me show you. It's biblical. Acts 5:42, and daily in the temple in every house they cease not to teach and preach Jesus. Where do they teach people about the Lord? In the home. Look at Acts 2:46. They continued daily with one accord in the temple, breaking bread from house to house. They went from house to house, eating their meat with gladness and singleness of heart. Acts 20:20, and thou kept back nothing that was profitable unto you, but I have showed you publicly, and from house to house. Brethren, put the sinner in your home. There's a reason we don't have Bible studies at Cracker Barrel. We're too busy with the biscuits and the gravy. Put them in your house and you'll have a study. Do not try to take them out to Old Charlie's to do a study. That is not the place to do a Bible study. It's a terrible environment. Get to know them at Old Charlie's, take them to Cracker Barrel, but get them to your home. Number 2, write this down, hospitality. Write this word down, hospitality. You got to learn now how to treat them. You make them feel like they're the most important person in your life. Once they're in your home, wherever it is, whether it be at work, whether it be out at the ball field, you treat sinners as they're the most important people in your life. Let brotherly love continue. Yes, take Matt and his family out for steak every Sunday. I'm not discouraging that. I want you to treat your preacher kindly. But don't forget the sinners. Don't forget others. Do not be so concerned and wrapped up in your little affairs that you forget the sinner that walks in, the stranger that walks into your church building and you don't even know who it is. Always be ready to greet those you don't know. Hospitality is a command for elders. You cannot service an elder if you're not hospitable. I grew up in the church. I went through the process in a church of selecting elders on multiple occasions. I remember the preacher preaching about the qualifications of elders. I realized that when it comes to some of those qualifications, we spend an extended period of time dissecting every word, every syllable. I mean, we go through it meticulously. But yet, I cannot remember one time in all of my years growing up in the church that was ever even mentioned hospitality. I wonder if anybody's ever asked this question when selecting an elder. Is this man hospitable? How do they treat people? Have they ever had anybody in their home? Have they ever been to my home? How do they treat visitors when they walk into the church building? Let's do a quick lesson on hospitality. Take your Bible to Luke chapter 10, verses 38 and following. We're going to make this real quick. Go to Luke 10, 38 through 40. And now it came to pass, the Bible says, as they went on their way, and you're going to underline a few things here, so I suggest you open your Bible. As they went on their way, they entered a certain village. There was a certain woman named Martha. Now, Martha is one of the friends of Jesus, and Martha received Jesus into her house. So Martha said, Jesus, would you come over to the house? So I'm going to give Martha some credit. At least she knew Jesus needed to be in her home. Do you know there are some of us this morning? And I do believe this. If Jesus came and visited with us here at this church building, we would not want him in our home, because we are afraid of what he might find. You know, in the refrigerator, you don't think anybody knows. You're kind of embarrassed. So, Jesus, would you like, let me get it, Jesus. Preacher, would you like something to drink? Sure. Help yourself, preacher. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, my. Oh, that's not mine, preacher. I hope not. Are you afraid that when Jesus walks into your home, he's going to look into your computer? He's going to see that hard drive, and he'll see what you've been looking at? You don't think that's a problem? Let me tell you what, men, it's the white elephant in the room, and it's destroying families and marriages. But you don't want Jesus in your home because you know he'll see right through you. But Martha said, Jesus, I have nothing to hide. Bring her. Come on, Jesus, come on in. And so she said, sit in my home, Jesus. And so her sister called Mary. And she said, man, Martha, this is wonderful. Jesus is in the house. And she sits at his feet and said, Jesus, will you tell me about the kingdom again? Jesus, what's going to happen when the kingdom comes? Jesus, tell me more about the gospel. Tell me, Jesus, tell me about heaven. And then Martha said, man, it's so good to have Jesus. Jesus is in the home. Oh, no, I've got dust in the corners. My floors are dirty. And I got to fix something. I'm not a very good cook. Oh, no, this is not good. And my dishes have spots on them. And I don't have matching silverware. And I don't even know if I have enough ingredients in the house. And what is my sister doing out there? What if she needs to be in here helping me? Jesus probably has a peanut allergy and I'm going to kill him. She is falling apart. And the Bible says that Martha was cumbered about with much serving and came to pass and said, Lord, does that not care that my sister has left me alone to serve? Lord, get her in here to put first things first. We need to clean house, Lord. And Jesus answered and said unto her, Martha, Martha, thou art careful and troubled about a great, now circle it, many things. Watch this. This isn't an accident. But there is one thing that is needful. And your sister Mary chose the good part, and it will not be taken away from her. Brother, may I suggest to you this morning, hospitality has a whole lot more to do about your Christian service to others than cleaning your home. And you say, well, preacher, I don't know if I'm a good enough cook. Go to the KFC, get the bucket, put it on a platter. They'll never know. Get the sinner in your house. Have you ever noticed that Jesus, he was looking for sinners? Have you ever noticed how often he went to their home and he sat in their home and ate with them? You know why he did that? You know why he said, Zacchaeus, come down from there. We're going to your house. You know why it is for Simon the Pharisee? He said, we're going to your house. Because Jesus was looking to identify sinners. He invested his time in them. He interacted with them. And he always gave them an invitation to change. If we would follow Jesus, we would be better evangelists today. Let's go to the third principle. Hearken. You got to learn to listen. We have to listen to people. And you can't talk. I want you to listen. Don't talk about yourself. Don't talk about your children. I want you to listen to them. Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. You're to listen twice as much as you're to speak. Listen to them. It's amazing when Jimmy Fisher brought up Revelation. Rob, it's all in the book of Revelation. I didn't know that. And he said, Rob, let me tell you about Armageddon. And I want to tell you about the rapture, Rob. And I've been reading these Left Behind series. They're an exciting series. I said, I bet they are. And Rob, it's all, you can see the signs, Rob. I mean, we just had the big tsunami in India. And Rob, we've had all those hurricanes are getting worse, you know, Rob. And this is all the plan of God. We're about to go through the big one, Rob. We got to be ready. You know what I was doing? I was listening. Brethren, I was not about to reply to him. I'm listening. Do you know what listening does? That told me that Jimmy Fisher is religious. That's what I got out of that. He has respect for the Bible. Have you ever noticed the church did not start in Athens? It started with people who had some respect for the Bible, for God. And that's where the church starts. You want to be successful, start where people are at. Start here. How many of you know people right now that are religious? In fact, I would assume that most of your friends are religious. You know why? Because people have a tendency to create friendships with people kind of like them. They may not share your same religious views, but they're at least religious. I mean, they at least believe in God. I mean, it's kind of uncomfortable to have friends that don't have anything in common with you, isn't it? So we start in Jerusalem. That's where the church started, right? So listen to him. He's religious. Yes. This is going to be simple. It's a whole lot easier for me to start with Jimmy Fisher. So I'm listening to that. So you need to listen to people. There's a story told about Franklin Delano Roosevelt. The story is this. He was a jokester, a prankster. But he had polio, I guess you realize, as a boy, right? He couldn't stand hardly at all. He could, but it was very painful. And you go down to Warm Springs, Georgia. Ever been there? I think it's Warm Springs, south of Fayetteville. There's a national monument for Franklin Roosevelt, and they talk about his whole story. And so there's a true account of an event in his presidency. And his chief of staff came in and said, Mr. President, the ambassadors are here. We're ready for the receiving line to start. We need to get ready to bring them in to greet you. He said, just dispense with that today. We're not going to do that today. Mr. President, they've come from halfway around the world, and they want to talk to you and Eleanor, and it's just to meet you. We're not, it's too painful for me to stand up, and I just no one listens. It's a waste of time, and no one even hears what I'm saying, so just dispense with it. He said, Mr. President, you must see the ambassadors. The prime ministers have come, Mr. President, and they need to come say hello to you. You must meet them. All right, bring them in. He's kind of sneaky, He decided he would do an experiment, and so he started calling them over. Sir, Mr. Ambassador, come over. Yes, Mr. President, so good to meet you. Sir, come here. I killed my grandmother last night. Marvelous, Mr. President. Oh, how wonderful to be. Sir, all the white pillars in the house are just beautiful, and I just love this place. Mr. President, give my regards to the cook. Such a good job. Tell Eleanor hello. And the next person, Prime Minister. Sir, Mr. Prime Minister, come here, sir. I killed my grandmother last night. Oh, God bless you, Mr. President. Oh, what? You're doing such a good job on the war effort, sir. Things are going so well here, and we're so grateful to be in your presence. This was a wonderful night. I'll never forget being with you, sir. Oh. Then it was a little ambassador from Bolivia, the last one he called over. Come here, sir. I killed my grandmother last night. Oh, Mr. President. Well, I'm sure she had it coming to her. No one listens. Brethren, if you'll listen to the sinner, the Bible study will come, because they'll give you hints, open opportunities. Number 4, this is our last one for this morning. Brother, I need you to hesitate. And so as Jimmy is telling me all about, and I'm listening, he's telling me all about the book of Revelation, the 144,000. The most important thing I can do is hesitate. Don't put your foot in your mouth. Who wants to start a Bible study in the book of Revelation? Brethren, the book of Revelation is the last book of your Bible for a reason. You don't start in the book of Revelation. In fact, some of the greatest lessons Jesus taught is when he said nothing. He didn't talk. He didn't reply. He said nothing at all. There were lessons that he was teaching people. You don't have to talk. You don't have to respond. You don't have to rebut. Sometimes the best thing you can do is hesitate. It was Abraham Lincoln, and the war was going poorly. And it was a summer before the election. And he looked at the polls, and they were bad. And President Lincoln knew he was going to lose. And if he loses the presidency, he loses the war. The next president is going to come to terms with peace with Jefferson. It's all over. And the president, the country's war-weary. His back's against the wall, and so he does the only thing he knows he can do. He calls in the generals. He calls them into the White House. He calls them over to he says, listen, he said, we got to talk. He says, we're losing this war. Mr. President? Are you watching the same war we're watching? We got Lee at Gettysburg. We got him down to Vicksburg. We already took the Gulf. We got the Mississippi sewn up. We got him 6 ways from Sunday. Mr. President, we're winning this war. He says, you guys don't get it. I'm going to lose this election, and you will lose your war. We have to bring the war to an end now. And I need to know how you're going to do it. There was silence in the room as they looked at each other. And one man had the courage to raise his hand. It was General Sherman. Yes, General Sherman, Mr. President, I know how we can win this war. You won't like it. General Sherman, do your job. And he did. He took his army and he started just north of Chattanooga. The Southern boys knew they had not a prayer. So when the North advanced, they just went up to Chickamauga and they gave him Chattanooga. He destroyed the city. And Sherman saw him running, so he ordered the assault. And the Southern boys, though, had dug in. They had their cavalry, their infantry, and all their lines were clearly marked. And as the North began to assault them at Chickamauga, they could not break their lines. Heavy casualties. And Sherman looked up there and he says, I don't need Chickamauga. He said, let's keep going. He had one objective. He will get to it. He gets to Kennesaw. And the Southern boys had again drawn the lines. They had dug in deep, and they couldn't be penetrated. And he was taking heavy losses, and it was a terrible battle, and the casualties were high. Sherman says, I don't need Kennesaw, but I'll take Atlanta. And he burned it to the ground. Brethren, pick your battles wisely. You do not have to win every argument. You do not have to engage in every religious discussion. You do not need to engage in a discussion on tongue-speaking, miracles, the second coming, the rapture. These are all side subjects. You will never get to the cross if you chase those rabbits. Never. One of the biggest mistakes I made for years is I chased rabbits. Hesitate. You'll fight those battles later. By the way, Jimmy Fisher is not a premillennialist today. Because once someone realizes they were wrong about the most important thing, it's not hard to teach them they were wrong about the little things. Pick your battles wisely. How do you get into study? Open up your house. Learn how to be hospitable to sinners. Listen to them. Hesitate to answer, and you'll get your study. Brandy Fleming walked down the aisle. She had a piece of paper in her hand, and she said, hey, Rob, I've got somebody for you. I'm write the paper. Brandy, no. Brandy, he's a young guy. He's the varsity girls basketball coach. And everybody knows him. His name is Dustin McKinney. Dustin wins. And Red Bowling Springs, Tennessee, Red Bowling Springs is not known for much, but they breed basketball players. And every year, and I know this because I coach basketball for Daniel One Academy down in Cookeville. And I play Dustin every year by choice because I live up in Red Bowling Springs. And we play one of our first games. And I don't like to play Dustin because I know what's going to happen. And when I saw Dustin McKinney's name, I said, Brandy, that's terrible. And I said, I think I know where Dustin lives. I said, let's get him on the contact list and get the prayers and cards going. I said, church, get those cards pouring in. I need you to help me. I said, prospect, Dustin, prospect. Get those compassion cards. Get them sent. Jared and I, a little bit later, said, Jared, I said, let's go visit Dustin. So I got in the truck. I looked up his address, went down the road, pulled into his driveway, knocked on the house door. He opened it up and he said, Rob? I said, hey, Dustin, how you doing? I'm okay. I said, Dustin, I heard the news. He said, yeah. He said, Rob, who would ever thought? I said, man, Dustin, I don't have an explanation for you. I said, but I'm here to help. He said, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, I want to pray for you. I want to pray for you. I said, if you'll just let me pray with you at the door here. Oh, yeah, Rob, I need prayer. I said, yeah. I said, Jared and I just came to pray. He said, well, thank you. And so we prayed, and he said, man, Rob, that means a lot that you came over here just to pray with me. I said, well, Dustin, we're praying. The whole church at Willette's praying for you. Man, I need it. Hey, Rob, you come back any day you want and pray. Don't worry, I will. I have one mission. I just want a Bible study. So I came back, went back to the church, and we're praying, we're sending the cards, and I went back, and it was Sunday, nursing home ministry. So Steve Draper, one of the elders, and I went to do the service, and afterward I said, Steve, let's go visit Dustin. He said, well, Rob, I don't know Dustin. I said, well, I'm going to introduce you. And I said, let's go over and see Dustin. So we went over to Dustin's house, knocked on the door. He goes, hey, Rob, come on in. Who do you got with you? Oh, just one of the elders, Steve. Well, come on, any friend of Rob's a friend of mine. Come on in the house. Hey, Natalie, what's going on back there? She's in the kitchen cooking, doing some cooking, and now I'm in the house. I have one mission. I don't lose sight of my mission. I know who my target is, and I will reach it. I sat around the house, and I know it's all over the house are cards, compassion cards. Thank you, thinking of you, praying for you, we love you, encouragement cards. You can do this. Get well cards. They're everywhere. Guess who sent them? The Willette Church of Christ. Hey, Rob. Dustin, what are these cards doing here? Oh, yeah, that's from that church you preach at, Rob. He said, I've never never gotten this many cards for all my whole life combined. Man, it makes me, I take them, Rob, I read them, and it lists my day. Hey, Dustin, I noticed the grass outside's getting a little tall. He said, yeah, Rob. He says, I can't get out there and get in the sun. Doctor says not good for me. I said, no problem. The Willette Church of Christ will mow your yard until you're better. Steve looked up, we will? Better to ask elders for forgiveness than permission. It's all right. And he said, oh, yes, we've got this covered. So we're going to mow the lawn. And I'm walking out, and we prayed together. And I said, well, guys, if it's okay, I'll be back. You come back anytime, Rob. Oh, I will. And we went to the church that Sunday night, and the elders were talking. They said, hey, Rob, you ever see the elders huddling? It's an eerie feeling when elders huddle, for a preacher anyway. And they said, Rob, we need to speak with you. Oh, no. Should have asked for permission. And I sat down, and they said, no, Rob, they said, Rob, we can mow lawns. Amen. How many of you would mow a lawn if it helped save a soul? Raise your hand. Look at that, elders. Put them to work. Put your members to work. They just need you to tell them what to do. We put that sign-up list out there, and man, it was full like that. Every week, his lawn will be cut. You say, I don't have a trailer. You have a phone? Call mowing service. We're going to make sure his lawn's good. And it's going to say, Willette Church of Christ. Every week, card, Willette Church of Christ. They said, Rob, we have something you need to go tell Dustin. I said, what is it? And they said, Rob, would you tell Dustin that we will pay his highest medical bill? If he'll just give it to you the next time he sees you. But Rob, we don't want anybody knowing. I understand that. I said, I'll do that. So I walked over, we went over to his house the next week and sitting there visiting. And I said, Dustin, I don't know how to say this, but the elders want to pay your highest medical bill. Really? My medical bill? I said, yeah, just give me the bill. No one will know. As I was walking out of the house, Natalie said, hey, Rob, Dustin's going to have a surgery. We finally found a surgeon that would do the surgery. It's going to be at Vanderbilt Hospital. Can you ask the church to pray about this? I said, Natalie, I'll be there. No, Rob, that's a long drive. You don't have. I said, Natalie, I'll be there. I got to the hospital. It was Natalie's mom, Dustin's mom, and we prayed, and they took him back. We were there all day. It was a long surgery, delicate surgery. Most surgeons would not take it. They found one surgeon in the country that did it. The surgeon comes out, and he's looking for the family. We're the only ones left. McKinney family, we raised our hand. He walked over. I've been on the wrong side of too many of these. He said, Miss McKinney, it was going to be tough. I told you I didn't know if I could get it. Miss McKinney, I had margins all the way around it. Miss McKinney, I think we did it. Tears poured out of her eyes, and we hugged. I said, Doctor, would it be okay if I offered prayer? He said, son, you better. And we prayed. I said, Natalie, there's something I need to talk to Dustin about, but it's going to be, let me know when he's better. And about a week later, she calls me and said, Rob, Dustin, I'd like to see you. We drove over with my family. We're sitting in the living room. I have one question. Dustin, what do you know about the Church of Christ? I don't know a lot, Rob. Do you like the Church of Christ? Oh, Rob, I love them. Would you like to know more? I would. I just so happen to have these little booklets right here. And you did the hard part. Thank you, church. Because what I get to do is easy. Can you do this? Is there any reason you can't do this? I can tell you we can't do it and sit in the pews. We got to get busy. In the Recipes for Evangelism book, let me give you a quote. This is Sharon Fisher. Nicole wrote this book a couple years ago. It's a book for ladies on evangelism. I think every lady needs to read this. But let me give you a snippet out of the book. Sharon Fisher wrote a chapter in this book. This is what she wrote. The hospitality we were shown made all the difference to our willingness to get involved in a Bible study. Ladies, if you don't open up your home and show hospitality, your husband cannot do the Bible study without you. Because we must earn the right to have a Bible study. That quote summarizes this whole lesson. You must earn the right to have the study. Thank you, and God bless you. We'll take a 5 minutes break.